So, Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you.
I mean, we sort of knew it was going to be hopeless for Starmer, but it became more and more hopeless last night as it got closer and closer to the vote, which took place around about 7 p.m. I couldn't quite believe what I was watching.
No, it was extraordinary.
I saw you on Jeremy Carl's show just before 7 from the lobby, and you know, I thought, poor old Theo's going to be in for a long night.
Yeah.
But actually, it wasn't that long in the sense that we knew fairly quickly that the rebels had won, right?
Yeah, the rebels had won, and even then you saw a rebellion of 49 Labour MPs. They were just going for the complete, utter, complete victory.
Yeah.
When they voted against the government. Now, of course, it didn't come off. The Keir Starmer was saved that last bit of humiliation, but his authority has been completely torn apart.
Yeah, he has no authority now.
It's done.
Right? He has no authority. He also has no kind of loyalty. Because the people who have basically thrown him to the wolves have thrown him to the wolves, and he's not coming back from that. Yeah. And he also has no kind of no kudos anymore. He has no skin in the game, because now every time he wants to do anything, the rebels will say, well, we don't like that. And so, quite frankly, because what the result of this, unfortunately, I think for people who would like to see some proper reform in the welfare bill, is that, it's now going to be impossible to take any money away from anybody who's claiming any benefit of any kind, assuming that basically everybody who's on benefits deserves the benefits. Yeah, no,
the welfare reform is done while Keir Starmer is Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Labour MPs are not going to put up with it. They're not going to have it.
Right.
And Jack Helsom's got a great, bit of commentary on I think it's on page
in the
10,
Sun. Yeah, we're going to
Sun.
talk to Jack later.
So it's worth, but Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are hamstrung. They can't do anything, and that's a problem because if they can't cut welfare, then that means only one thing, and that means for your listeners, anybody listening now, it's going to be tax rises.
Yeah.
And Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer promised that they weren't going to come back with anything like the tax rises that we saw last autumn, but they're going to have to do exactly that, because they've got to they've got to balance the books. They've got to restore that fiscal headroom, because otherwise we end up in a situation like we've had previously, where the markets don't like it, and then they turn and flee, and then we're in real trouble.
Right.
So they've got to raise
We're already
taxes.
in pretty bad trouble.
We're in deep trouble already.
The pound is already hitting some lows at the moment, as far as I can understand it. It looks as though the sort of the long-term investors that would normally be putting money into markets in Britain are not doing it. They don't have any confidence. The housing market is already kind of on the brink of the doldrums because of the different taxes they've put on, and the stamp duty and all the rest of it, and all the changes. We've got the hospitality industry on its knees.
Front page of the Times. The boss of AstraZeneca wants to pull out of the UK potentially, and that would be a disaster. It's grim.
It's very gloomy. I mean, the economic position in this country is already pretty gloomy. So I mean, I'm not even sure they can come back with more tax cuts, because I don't think people will wear them. People will just go. I mean, look at the numbers of people who are leaving the country, and it's not just it's not just the millionaires. It's not just the people who supposedly the left don't care about. But the tax base is starting to disappear, and this is what happened in America in many of the inner cities. Like when they called it white flight, for want of a better phrase, but it wasn't just white flight. It was people who had money leaving the inner cities of America. I remember when I first went there in the 80s. You go to a place like Detroit, and the inner city was just a complete ghetto. It was complete. Nobody lived there because there was nobody wanted to live there, because there was so therefore the city had no money. They couldn't repair roads, they couldn't repair bridges, they couldn't repair they were paying welfare out to all the people that lived there, and all you end up having is this kind of husk of a city or husk of a country where the only people who are actually left in it are the people claiming welfare. And that's what you're going to end up with.
It's
and those of us who are making money will just move away.
And we've already seen the numbers start to come through from, as you say, people just leaving the country or elsewhere. And as you say, I think also what's interesting is that, especially when you speak to young people now, they realise the opportunities aren't here.
Right.
You can speak to, they just realise.
And if you're mobile, and if you've got nothing to lose, because I did the same thing in the 80s. I was 23. I went to New York. You don't have any. You've got nothing to give up. You haven't got a house. You haven't got a marriage. Probably you haven't got a mortgage. You haven't got any reason to stay in a place. You just go. People are going to Australia. They're going to Dubai. They're going to America. They're going to Europe. People are just getting the hell out.
And it's also the brightest that are doing it. It's the people we need in this country who are leaving. And that's the really sad thing.
Right.
If we're going to turn it around, if we're going to make this country a better place.
And we're importing that. Just a load of people on boats. who can come in and drive around and give us some free food to make us even fatter. Brilliant. Forbes has said this: the UK faces the largest single-year departure of wealth ever recorded, with 16,500 high net worth individuals projected to get residency elsewhere. It's a lot of people.
And then you've also got those. You've also got those who are either leaving the UK or are deciding not to come to the UK.
Yeah.
And that's damaging. So we can no longer compete with Dubai. Milan is now the destination of choice.
Yes, interesting you should say that, because I know a guy who just sort of went to work there just recently. Apropos of nothing, funnily enough, I just picked this up this morning. It actually was tweeted yesterday by Kevin Peterson, the cricketer. A friend got bumped by two guys in London the other day for his watch. He told me how quick and traumatic it was. His takeaway was he never thought it would happen to him. What the hell has happened to London? Yeah. And that is the, when I hear this from friends of mine who are working in the Middle East, who say, you know, the sort of Dubai contingent now no longer are coming to London for the summer because it's too dangerous. You know, they go to Paris, they go to Madrid, they go to Milan, because they can't guarantee that if they come to London, you know, their Lamborghini won't get jacked and their Rolex won't get stolen. And I know that there'll be some people listening to this going, oh, well, so what? Well, so what? You know, that's the reputation that London now has as an international city. It's an international city of crime. That's what it is. Yeah,
my wife works with a number of people who are expats in this country, and they're sort of, you know, coming in from America, some of them. And this, you know, they view London as being dangerous.
Yeah. Because it is.
They are worried that it is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
And I find that, I don't know about you, I don't know about your listeners, but I find that really strange, because I always thought we don't have guns in this country. Yeah. We do have, there are guns in America. I always thought of America as being much more dangerous. Yeah. So for me to hear that Americans find Britain dangerous, I just find just astonishing. It just feels like a complete switch around.
But the thing about America, where I lived for a long time, and I still go to very often, there's not a sense that there's this random kind of crime that just happens to you. Whereas, you know, I mean, if you end up getting involved in some kind of gun incident in America, you've been very, very unlucky. Whereas if you get involved in an incident here where something's stolen from you just because you're walking down the street, or your car gets nicked, or your house gets broken into, I mean, that kind of randomness happens much more often here, which is why people feel you know, unsafe here.
Yeah, I was speaking to one of the, Nigel Farage had one of his press conferences the other day, and host a sort of high net worth individuals. There were a few high net worth individuals in there turned up, and I was speaking to one of them, and they were saying they don't go out with their watch anymore. They just don't wear a watch when they go out. If they've got a nice watch, they just don't take it out with them. They don't take their phone out of their pocket. They just leave their phone in their pocket. They do everything on
and so you're conscious all the time of thinking, I better not do anything stupid here in case I get rolled. Right?
And it's actually quite difficult, because a lot of stuff that you do when you're outside, you know, you're trying to get a bike to get home or whatever, one of those electric bikes to get home or whatever, you have to take your phone out.
It's not something I've ever done.
No, I do it a little bit, sorry. But you feel quite like... You feel, you know, better do this quickly. Right. You know, you have to get the app, and then you have to zap the thing, and then, start the bike. You feel like somebody could just come in, just smash the phone out your hands.
So that you're on edge. And I can't imagine what it's like for women as well, you know, who are apparently much more likely to be victims of this kind of crime because they're less likely to fight back. You know, that's the problem. Well, let's have a look at Liz Kendall. She was obviously the woman trying to push this welfare bill through. The scenes of chaos that were described. I mean, I was watching Stephen Timms, who was the sort of welfare minister, trying to organise before the vote what it was that he was doing, and trying to explain to people what the concessions were, because the concessions that Starmer made have basically made the welfare bill pointless. Right? It really doesn't have any teeth whatsoever. It's never going to reduce welfare. It's not going to reduce the bill. In fact, the bill, if anything, is going to go up. Here's Liz Kendall trying to defend it just before the vote.
I understand why many members would like to see the results from the Timms review implemented before the 4-point change takes effect. But reviewing the assessment as a whole, let me just say, it is a major undertaking that will take time to get right, especially if we co-produce it properly. It will be for those involved in the review to determine the precise table, but we are absolutely committed to moving quickly and completing the review by next autumn.
Now, this was the sort of the final concession, wasn't it? That they said basically, so anybody who's on personal independent payment is not going to have their PIP analysed in any way, shape or form. They're now going to do a review, which is going to be published sometime next year. So if you're on PIP now, all those people who worried that they were going to have it taken away, they're not going to have it taken away because nobody's even going to examine it.
No. So they knew about this problem on Monday.
Yeah.
And Liz Kendall was questioned about it on Monday.
Yeah.
Right, so you could, and it was put to Liz Kendall that it was basically a 3-tier system. So you could have an individual with exactly the same disability.
Yeah.
But it's so mind-bogglingly stupid.
Right.
But this is what they were proposing.
Right.
You'd have, let's say you have one wheelchair user who claims PIP, and they are an existing claimant, right? And they are entitled to their PIP.
Yeah.
You then now you're going to have a system where you have another wheelchair user, exactly the same disability, but they're going to have their PIP half of what it is for the existing claimant. Then they were proposing you're going to have Stephen Timms conduct his review by November, and he'll decide what PIP is. He may put it back up again.
Yeah.
And you will have you could have potentially 3 claimants, exactly the same disability, all receiving a different amount of PIP. And so Labour MPs were raising this, saying, you've got to do something about this. This is patently unfair.
Yeah.
It's completely unfair. But they said, no, this is the way we're doing it. You heard from Liz Kendall. No, we're going to do the review. It's not just any time next year. It's November next year, by the way.
Right.
And Labour MPs were not going to put up with it. And they were going, the reason they climbed down on this was because they were going to rebel to the extent that the legislation was going to fall.
Yeah.
And that's why...
Because there was 120 odd of them that were originally going to vote against it.
And then what they did is they hid their names. So they then had another amendment, because they won over Meg Hillier, and there was another amendment which would kill the bill, put forward by Rachel Reeves, the Labour MP for York Central. And there were 39 Labour MPs on that list, right? And the government looked at it and went, well, that's quite easy, we can win it. But actually what they hadn't taken into account was that a number of Labour MPs were going to vote with those same rebels.
Right.
They hadn't put their name on the list, so they didn't have the whips ringing them up going, I want to try and persuade you. They didn't care, they just didn't want to be bothered. Right. So they didn't put their name to the list.
So the total in the end was 49, wasn't it?
49, but they would have lost. I mean, it would have been 90, 80, 90. It would have been catastrophic.
And what's interesting in Peace in the Sun by Kemi Badenoch actually saying there are now people called sickfluencers who are people who are on the internet telling people how that they can make claims and how they can be successful by putting in a claim. And we know from reporting this in the past, I think you've said it, it's page 2 of the Sun, basically 1,000 claims, extra claims per day are now being made, right? And according to Kemi Badenoch, the number of people claiming out of work sickness benefits has gone up by 50% since the Labour government have been in charge. So, I mean, it's become basically a massive racket. Let's have a look at what Liz Kendall said after the vote.
I wish we had got to this point in a different way, and there are absolutely lessons to learn. But I think it's really important we've passed this bill for second reading. It puts in place some really important reforms to the welfare system, tackling work disincentives, making sure that people with severe conditions are no longer reassessed. And alongside our investment in employment support, this will help people get back to work, because that's the right future for them.
Is your position really tenable, though? You've been repeatedly humiliated in the last week.
You know, I think listening is actually a strength in politics, as indeed it is in life, and I'll continue to listen to colleagues.
You want to carry on?
Absolutely.
Listening is a strength in politics. That's not what Keir Starmer said a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago he said he was up for the fight, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to listen to anybody.
And it's just noises off.
The noise is off, and, you know, we know what we're doing. We don't need any lessons from anybody else who's not as clever as we are.
Yeah.
Now he looks like a complete and utter plonker. Brian in Glasgow. Morning, Mike and Theo. With this latest capitulation by Keir Starmer, is this the beginning of the end of his premiership? If so, who takes over? Well, I think there's no question that old Andy Burnham and Sadiq Khan and Angela Rayner are all sharpening their fingernails, aren't they?
Yeah, it's only going to be Angela Rayner.
Yeah, Angela Rayner.
I mean,
well, she's obviously now going to be the queen of Labour, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she did 2 PMQs, and you could see with the way she held when she stood in for the Prime Minister, and I could I would bet my mortgage that Keir Starmer isn't going to miss any more Prime Minister's questions. Absolutely.
He's going to make it today, isn't he?
He's going to make it. I think he's just not going to allow that to happen.
But it's going to be really embarrassing for him today. If Kemi Badenoch's got anything about her, she will absolutely strip him bare and make him look really idiotic.
Yeah. But it's also worth, sometimes with these Prime Minister's questions, it's worth just, you can always, Kemi Badenoch, we can see that she's often missed open goals, right? She gets the tone wrong.
Yeah.
What it's really important for her to do is to gently prise the wedge between Keir Starmer and his own backbenchers, to give them the room.
And he'll hate that. And what you want to do, and this is what I would say to anybody who was advising him today or advising her today, is just get under his skin. Because then he'll start abusing her. He'll start getting nasty because he can't handle it. He can't take it. If you start, needling him and fingering him, he doesn't like it.
No, he doesn't like it, and that's why they didn't vote.
That's what I'd be doing.
That's.
Sorry.
You might have a go, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to.
But they didn't vote for the amendment last night because they didn't want to give the Labour rebels. What she doesn't want to do is to be too fierce. So suddenly the Labour rebels go, whoa, what have we done? Oh, we've made the Tories stronger. She wants to give the rebels the room to allow them to attack Keir Starmer. Those questions from the backbench MPs could be fire, because what happened last week was because Angela Rayner is actually quite popular with the Labour backbenchers, and they respect her more than they respect Keir Starmer. When she stood in, you didn't get that fire from them because they don't want to embarrass her, and she actually carried it off very well in terms of appealing to those Labour voters. If it comes to a vote in the Labour Party, there's only one winner, and that will be her. And I don't think many of your listeners would be like, Angela Rayner as Prime Minister would be.
I think that's the beginning of the end of the Labour government and the Labour Party altogether. She might well be popular in the Labour Party, but she'd be bloody useless as Prime Minister. Although, could she be more useless than this one? It's 6:22. Let's get a voice note from Kitty.
I just wanted to say that I have a couple of very expensive watches, and through hard work I've managed to buy them, and I don't ever wear them into London in the summer. I go up to London 4 days a week. I always wear them in the winter when I've got a coat covering my wrist. There is a constant fear of being stopped, and I'm very cautious with my phone. If I do get it out of my bag, I just stop in a doorway to check it and put it back. And just a note on the PIP people. The people on PIP are getting on my PIP, that's for sure, because they're I'm no longer going to get my free taxi. It isn't free. I'm going out to work every day to pay for it, as are you, as are all of your listeners, I would expect. The people that aren't listening to you, no doubt, are in bed waiting to get up and go and collect their PIP. Anyway, have a lovely day.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Kitty, for that. Absolutely. We had a lot of calls yesterday on this because somebody rang in or was quoted on the news as saying, I need my PIP because I've got my private mental health therapy that I have to have, and because I don't get a free bus pass anymore, I need to obviously get my taxis paid for whenever I go anywhere. And people are going, well, hang on a minute, why do you need a free bus pass, and why do you need a free taxi, and why are we paying for your, private mental health therapy? People are really angry about it, and unfortunately, because of what Labour and the backbenchers have done, they've made it impossible now for anybody to be questioned about why they need their benefits.
Yes, and the problem is that the pool of kitties who are out there, right, is getting smaller. Yeah. And the pool of people who are claiming this benefit is getting larger.
The problem.
That's the
and you can't sustain it.
There's more pressure on the kitties of this world to go out to work and pay money, to earn money, to pay taxes.
Right. And that's what people are getting fed up with, and that's why people no longer support this government, even if they voted for it, because they can't just keep continuing to pay for a load of people who want everything for nothing. I don't care what your disability is, everybody's responsible for their own, well-being at the end of the day. Yes, of course, there are some people who need it. Yes, of course, there are some people who should get it all the time, and that's what it's for. But what it's not is a way of life. Acne, for heaven's sake.
Anxiety.
Sorry, I'm not giving you money just because you look a bit spotty. You don't get anything for that. 25 minutes past 6. Welcome back to Morning Glory at 6:28. I'm Mike Graham. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well, talking through the nightmare that was last night in the House of Commons for Keir Starmer. Absolute and utter humiliation. I mean, the front pages really do say it all. Utter capitulation over PM's welfare bill. what we've got, humiliated Prime Minister caves to rebels of the Sun. The Times, humiliation for Starmer after U-turn on benefits. Daily Telegraph, Starmer's benefits bill turns to farce. It really was chaotic last night. It really was. I mean, even right up until the vote at 7 o'clock last night, there were Labour MPs actually texting talk here, and we're not exactly friends of left-wing Labour backbenchers, but they were texting in to say it is like nothing we've ever seen before. It's so chaotic. And of course, as you would expect, we found
There's always a
tweet. There's always a tweet, and this is from the 21st of April 2022 from Keir Starmer, and this is what he says: honesty and integrity matter. Today's humiliating climb down showed that the Conservatives know they can no longer defend the indefensible. It has never been more clear that Boris Johnson's authority is shot and he is unable to lead. Britain deserves better.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you could reverse that and take Boris Johnson's name out, put Keir Starmer's name in, and just go, last night's humiliating climb down shows that the Labour government know they can no longer defend the indefensible.
Yeah.
You know, they have completely screwed it up, haven't they?
Yeah, and
I mean, I want to say the word
Boris
again.
Johnson
I can't say it, but they've basically blown it, haven't they?
Yes,
For want of a better word. Beginning with F.
But you, it's very difficult to see how he pulls it back from here.
Yeah,
and it's just very difficult, you know, for Keir Starmer now to turn it around from this point.
And is he now? I know you and I have talked about this a lot,
Yeah.
and I've said many times to you, I think something will bring this guy down. I just don't think he's capable. He's no good at the job. He doesn't look confident enough. He's too arrogant. He doesn't take advice from the right people. You know, seriously, and I know that you will always say, you know, there's no mechanism by which a Labour government.
It's just more difficult because he gets to contest it, right?
Yes. However, I just think this is it for him. I think this is the beginning of the end. It's been coming for a long time. He has no authority, as you say. He doesn't really have any loyalty from his backbenchers. They don't really want him around. I don't see how he lasts until the end of the year. I just don't see it.
So,
because otherwise he just limps on.
Yes,
and nothing gets done.
The problem for many Labour MPs, and you've seen this to a large extent with the Conservatives as well. Their majority wasn't even as big as Labour's is, but with Labour MPs, they're going to come in for 5 years, and it's really difficult unless you make it actually quite high up in the government to get a career, or you've got a hinterland to go back to actually get a job afterwards, and they're going to find that really difficult. And I think for many of them, it's quite, you know, they've got it in the back of their mind that their majorities are quite slim. They can see what's happening out there with the likes of Nigel Farage and Reform UK, and they recognise that they're going to be out of a job, and it's not going to be a soft landing. It's going to be really tough for them. And I think if you look at people like,
but will they not take the view that if we can get rid of this guy Starmer, who's killing the party, killing the government, killing the country, and we put somebody else in? Can they believe in that person, and maybe they can see that their future is going to be better?
The problem is, of course, is that they will pick somebody, most likely to be Angela Rayner or somebody from the left of the party, who will not deliver what needs to be delivered. The one advantage that Keir Starmer has with Morgan McSweeney is they recognise the problem, right? They just can't deliver it. Yeah. That's the crux. They know what they need to do. They need to stop front pages like this.
But he said
on the front page of the Sun, that's what they need to stop.
But immigration, which they're never going to get to grips with, is the massive problem. If they can fix that, they could probably be in for the rest of the time, but they won't. The point is that, you know, he said he changed the Labour Party. He said it was no longer anti-Semitic. He said it was no longer left-wing. He pretended to be a Blairite. He's not a Blairite. He's an out-and-out Marxist, right? And so he's kind of allowed the left to be still in charge. And so, you know, they cannot reform welfare. They're stuck with a left-wing agenda. They can't move anywhere now. They're stuck in a cul-de-sac.
And they are stuck. And Harry Cole had a very good column. It was 10 days ago or so?
Yeah.
And he wrote about actually how when Keir Starmer talked about Island of Strangers, many people actually, you know, voters out there like that.
They did.
They like that.
And now he's walked away.
And then he's walked away from it. Exactly.
Right. Because he was frightened of upsetting the backbenchers just before this vote, which again was a failing technique, because he thought he was going to save himself, and he has saved the bill, but the bill's not worth the paper it's written on. And he might as well not bother.
And it's the voters to whom that speech appealed to the Island of Strangers speech appealed to that's going to get him out of this mess. But he doesn't really believe it. He's never really believed it.
No.
It's not.
That's the problem. He doesn't really believe in anything. You know, I mean, as I've written many, many times, loads and loads of you want to get in touch, by the way. The people on PIP are getting far too much, says Aaron. My friend is on top-rate PIP, and also his 10-year-old daughter is on PIP for ADHD. He says for him to go to work and for it to be worth his while, he would need to clear about £4 a month to earn the same as what he's getting off PIP, and that's Aaron in Belfast.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. People have been, because it was a ruse originally given to people to get them away from being unemployed, that was supposed to get them back to work, but in fact it didn't make any sense for them to go to work. It made more sense for them just to get the free money. And that is the terrible problem.
But it's also just worth recognising it's a qualifying benefit. So you can have a job on the side and you can get PIP. The problem is that PIP basically takes away any need to work.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And so
you don't need to get a job in order to get the benefit. So why would you bother getting a job when you can get the benefit without the job? Because when you're on benefits like that, they also pay for your rent, they also pay your council tax. You know,
housing benefit.
You know, your housing benefit comes in as well. So you've got, you know, the headroom, as he says there, his mate, he would have to make 48 grand a year to get a job that would qualify him to get the same amount in as he already gets in benefits.
And there aren't 48, you know...
There aren't jobs, no, there aren't jobs like that. And meanwhile, the Channel migrants, since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, finally, I'm told the migrant tracker was going to catch up today. I've been saying all week that it's wrong. Hey, look at that, 43,224. I told you it was wrong. Now they've certainly put it right, so it looks like it's edging ever closer to 44,000. I said it might get to 50,000 by July the 4th. Probably won't quite do that. But, you know, it's certainly looking a lot more likely as to what that is. Let's take a little break because we're going to come back with what's on the front pages of both the Sun and the Mail today, still very much concentrating on the migrant crisis, because the migrant crisis doesn't change. And, in fact, the Sun says the migrant tide hits 20,000. That's just this year alone. This is Talk.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:38. Richard Tice is going to join us very shortly, but we've got a quick couple of run-through stories to do. Front page of the Sun, buggy useless. A picture of a brand new buggy on the beaches over in Calais, northern Normandy. French cops paraded around in a buggy paid for by the UK yesterday as dinghy migrants set sail. And you can see in the background the guys on a dinghy, while these guys on the, in the foreground are driving around, having a very nice time, but not doing anything to stop them coming. Of course they're not.
No, and we've given the French 500 million to try and shore up, stop people leaving in small boats from the northern coast of France. We've now hit a record of 20,000 people for this
Which
year
is what it says on the front of the Mail.
That's up 48% on last year. I mean, the total by the, if this, and there's no reason why it won't, that we continue on this trajectory, we're going to well surpass the record of 46,000 migrants crossing the Channel in a year. Well past it. And a very good front page in the Mail. A year after Starmer became Prime Minister and scrapped Rwanda, 879 migrants crossed the Channel on Monday, with a 6-month total this year at a record high. No one knows who they are or where they're from, but all will have to be fed, housed and given free healthcare, and most will never leave. Yeah, so...
And that's Britain today.
That's Britain. Page 4 and 5 of the Sun, all the gear, no idea.
Yeah.
You know, the French have been given, as the Sun reports, they've been given jeeps, quad bikes, drones, all in use. Well, there's one French police officer with tear gas, and they just make the migrants make a mockery of it. They just run around them into the small boats, into the water, and then cross over the English Channel into Britain. Yeah, and there's no chance at the moment of anybody stopping them. There is no way that anything that the Labour government is even introducing is going to stop them. We'll come back to that story in a moment, I'm sure. Other stories I think that were worth mentioning. 1 in 4, 4 in 10 babies rather, who are born in this country have a foreign-born parent, which I think also feeds into, you know, people's paranoia about the way that Britain is changing, where we've suddenly got, you know, 40% of kids who are born in this country have got a foreign-born parent. Now, that foreign-born parent may have come here by any number of different means, but there's a pretty good chance that some of those are people who have come here illegally, isn't there? Yeah, and we've seen it with, you know, the Louise Casey, sort of in the Louise Casey report. You know, there is no, because we simply don't know who these people are or where the people have come from. Then we saw it with Louise Casey in her report into grooming gangs, her review of grooming gangs, was that actually it would be inevitable. It would that some of these grooming gangs, there would be people from who would come into this country illegally and would be housed in either hotels or houses of multiple occupancy. It's a problem that, and Nigel Farage has called for, and I think actually he's going to be proven right on this. He's called for the Prime Minister to declare a national emergency for this
because it
issue.
is.
And the Prime Minister has resisted and resisted and resisted. But I would make a prediction that by the end of the summer they're going to have to treat this as some sort. They're going to have to declare something.
They are, because
it can't continue.
It's a massive emergency. Another one that we should mention: NHS patients face more delays from setting of minimum weights. Now, I don't understand what the reason would be for why the government would do this, but apparently ministers are preparing to launch a 10-year plan, a new 10-year plan to fix the NHS, designed to make care better, faster, and more efficient. I'm sorry, I thought Keir Starmer said that they'd already created 3 million more appointments in the NHS. I thought they'd already said that waiting lists were coming down. Instead, it looks as though now they're actually imposing longer waits for people in order to fix the system. So somebody's telling a lie.
Yeah, and the reason that...
I can't imagine who it is. We're going back to the line again.
We're going back, aren't we? Look, I think the reason they're doing it, the page 4, as you say, page 4 of the Times, is the reason they're doing it is that there's a financial crisis in the NHS, and therefore they haven't got the money.
How can you get £200 billion a year and have a financial crisis? I mean, I'd like to see those figures done on a piece of paper.
It's
like somebody giving me, £250,000 a year, and I'm going, I'm sorry, I can't. It's a financial crisis for me. I just can't make ends meet. I don't know. I just need more money. Just give me more money. £250,000 is not enough.
200. I mean, it's now going to reach 50 by 2028. I think the NHS spending is going to be 50% of all public sector spending.
Yeah,
50%.
I know. And they're getting now well in excess of 200 billion, because they got an extra 30 billion, didn't they, last summer, which they gave to the junior doctors. They're getting another 30 billion, I think, in the new spending review. So come November, they'll be. I mean, it's probably giving them 300 billion pounds a year, and they're having a financial crisis. You're just going to go, what's going on? What's wrong with you?
But it's just become. It's just ballooned out of control.
It really is,
and there's no end in sight to it.
There's no end in sight. Let's have one from Michelle in Altrincham, who's a listener every morning. She says, I'm turning 59 today. Happy birthday, Michelle, from Altrincham. Off to work, no handouts, no drama, and still look younger than Starmer. He's taken the taxpayer for a joke. Absolutely embarrassing. I think his days are well and truly numbered. Well, I did tell you. Everybody kept telling me, oh, no, there's no way it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Let's get a voice note from Jerry on welfare.
Morning, Mike. Jerry Fairshire. Listening to you guys go on about these people in PIP, absolutely makes my blood boil. I'm a night shift electrician. I was diagnosed with severe chronic arthritis in my knees when I was 44. I'm currently 51. I still work 48 hours a week, sometimes more. I do overtime, and I could easily pick up PIP because you can claim it while you're working. But I would never think of doing that. I'm more into paying into and help folk than taking it back at myself. But these people that go on about having mental health, give a break. You can still work. Absolute work-shy malingerers. That's all they are. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Work-shy malingerers. I think that's a very well designed phrase, and it's one that should be spoken. But of course, none of the backbenchers will speak about it. Let's just go back to the NHS, because I think we've got a clip of Keir Starmer telling us all about how well he was doing with the NHS.
Amongst the things, I could do a whole list, but I'm really proud that a year ago, probably, I was interviewed by you, and I said we'd do 2 million extra appointments in the NHS in the first year of a Labour government. We've now done 3 million, and waiting lists are coming down. There's a whole list of other things that I could probably go on about for a very, very long time.
Yeah, why don't you go about the welfare bill for a very long time? Tell us all about that. I mean, the guy is just deluded. I don't know whether he's deluding himself or he just thinks that he can continue to just bullshit us. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. My apologies. I know it's only 7:15 in the morning, but I've had enough of him.
He was the waiting list down from
I can't help it. I mean, we're lucky we're not swearing more.
7.49 million to 7.39 million.
It's just cobblers, isn't it? Rubbish. Anyway, more of the same coming. Theo,
we've driven you to that point.
You've driven me to that. I'm sorry, we've got to let you go.